Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Jeep Journals. My name is Ray, and it's a beautiful day. We're coming up on the end of the year of 2021, and it is nearing 80 degrees, which is exceptionally pleasant outside for a walk. Here in San Antonio, where the summertime temperatures can be up to and above 100 degrees at times. So, to have this late in the season, such warm days with tomato plants bearing fruit still, it is unbelievable. One of my best friends told me that it's so unseasonably warm that still the monarch butterflies are breeding in their region. This is incredible. Unheard of situations. I've been surprised often with ladybugs landing on me as recently as Christmas Day itself, which was now 4 days ago. So I had to do the math because time just keeps slipping into the future. If you don't know that, that's a reference. Time keeps on slipping into the future. And then there's that mystical noise that happens after that. That's a song. That's what some would call a cult reference. And what that means is it's part of that era. It's not necessarily saying cult like, in a bad connotation. The energy behind every word that we say can designate the energy that we resonate with one another. For an example, there's an airplane flying overhead right now. Do you hear it? That is not just a noise flying overhead. That's a bunch of our fellow brothers and sisters flying overhead. So, when I come out here into nature and when I enjoy the peace and beauty and quiet that nature allows me, that's why I say nature is nurture. For some of us who come out into this experience, we still want to be entertained. We still want to have conversations. We still want to have music playing. And so we still have want. To truly let go of want, we must first become comfortable knowing there's no need to want, except for because of the way we were conditioned. For an example, recently, 2 times during a 2-month period, I fasted. I only ingested water. On my water fast, I was able to focus my mind on things that were relevant to my current situation. For an example, as I began to notice that on a warm day such as today, where we're coming up on colder days, suddenly colder days, I have seen an increased appearance of serpents on the trails, snakes. I've also heard that sometimes snakes come out more frequently during a situation leading up to Earth movement events, such as earthquakes. Today itself, some of the news headlines included that there was earthquake activity registered in the West Texas area. It was a noteworthy event because people could feel the tremors. So, in certain spiritual teachings, and you can do the cross-referencing across whatever you subscribe to that you believe in as faith regarding a higher power, there is always a notion of the land being under attack when its people no longer give thanks for that land. Did you hear the confirmation? Someone was clapping with their door. There are synchronicities. There are things that occur to give us signs. Did that airplane noise cause agitation? Or did we give thanks that the airplane flying over was filled with our brothers and sisters? We are all children of this is a class participation video segment. You can say in response to the voice that you're seeing, whether it's on a TV screen or on a little display or on a computer monitor, you can acknowledge whether there is some truth to our actions and our consequences. If we are not responsible for the home we have been given dominion over, we might irresponsibly burn the house down. That is one extreme of an active mind that's not able to calm down. And if it were to come across a snake on the trails here, the mind would race in so many directions. The same way that sometimes a snake could scare someone or a bee could scare someone, even the way someone looks and talks with someone else can cause great concern. For that reason, I've slowed down what I'm saying. In this example of a video where I tie all of the subject material together to where I tell you when I see plastic on the trails, it does not bother me. When my own relatives lash out at me, it does not bother me. The way people respond when they are afraid is 100% predictable. You can know in advance if someone is on the verge of panic by assessing if they hear you as a hostile entity or as that former source of knowledge. In other words, as a friend who they regarded and respected. You can see it even without seeing one another. You can see it in our actions. Our actions, our responsibilities allow us to care for and nurture that which is around us, which includes ourselves. And if we continue to be trapped on the path of failure, without participating to short circuit those unwanted email solicitations that we continue to receive, if we do not unsubscribe from some of the channels, for an example, channels that only show non-interesting Corona log updates. My channel has Corona log updates. I talk about these very real named occurrences and why the spelling of what it is that we're paying attention to is also so important. Language is creation. Language is communication. Communication takes a desire to learn with one another. Here we have been learning for 11 minutes. How has this 11 minutes been for you? Was your mind racing? Were you at ease? Did you learn something about the airplane flying overhead? See, if you're not at ease, the absence of dysfunction, if you're not at ease, then the opposite would be dis-ease, disease. When we challenge each other with basic notions, to just think about a word without judgment, a word that we might have said before that would have brought judgment. Think about any word, any divisive term, and even the very fact that I said it's our brothers and sisters on the plane might offend some individuals out there because of rhetoric, wording, spelling. The power that spelling has over some of us is so profound that some people cannot stand to hear the truth. They would rather sit and look at some other device while the truth is gently being offered out there for free, without anything for sale. And some might try to buy the truth. Have you ever known of anyone who says how many different things that they contribute to without showing the actual results that they were proud of? What we choose to spend our time on is what spends time on us. If I choose to spend time wealth building, health is wealth, wealth is health. If I choose to spend my time this way, then I can either absorb the qualities to somehow be a part of that group, or I can understand that like attracts like. Some people would call that the law of attraction. Some extremely devout people would say there is only one way. I'm arguing with neither of those aspects and saying, isn't it true if you do something good, good will happen? Sure, there are some pitfalls along the way. But in general, truth is, that's the truth. If, however, we're given an opportunity to do good or not good. And I mean, we're given the opportunity. In other words, let's say somebody was given a house, for an example, confirmation. If somebody was given a house, would they upkeep it and enjoy it, or would they neglect it and not tend to it, like as if that house might be visited by a parent? So on that introduction, which was 15 minutes, I want to ponder this question. No matter which faith you pulled agreement or disagreement from, no matter which faith, let me ask you to at least hear the words of the way the central character in my common era was described to have taught us to pray as per direct connection to our Father. And that prayer is called the Our Father. So let me start out. We're going to dissect this, but not in a careless way. We're just going to listen to the words and tell me if at any point it disagrees with your form of good. So, our Father who art in heaven. Let's start right there. Whether we are thinking of our Father in a spiritual or sentimental way, which also could be discussed as spiritual, I'm not going to judge it. I'm just saying, whether we're thinking of a real person or an entity that we can't even classify as a person, our Father who art in heaven, heaven typically being this blissful, complete, and pure version of what happens in the afterlife. Our Father who art in heaven, our person that we think about, our entity that we think about, which happens to be in this peaceful place, in this amazing place. So it starts out saying that. There's nothing in any language or sect or religious branch that I can think of where that sentence would be offensive, is what I'm saying. Our Father who art in heaven. In most cases, you could apply that to whatever logic it is we're attributing a higher power to. Hallowed be thy name. And we even reinforce what we just said by saying, we respect your name. Your name has reverence. Hallowed be thy name. So whether I'm thinking about my grandfather who art in heaven and thinking, I really respect my grandfather and I want him to hear what I'm saying without me feeling judgmental. What I'm saying is, if we understand that we're talking about something that was something to begin with, and we're not just saying, yeah, God in heaven, but we don't have an actual connection. If God's not really a real person, hallowed be thy name doesn't make sense. So, hallowed be thy name to me, again, is not offensive. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Let it be. Things happen for a reason. Don't dwell on the past. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Thy leadership is another way to think of kingdomship. There's a lot of ship to think about in these presentations. That's why you're following along and joining and subscribing. which if you have not clicked on subscribe, please, I've been guilty of it myself. In this case, however, I'm not selling anything. I'm only asking, hey, I want to learn with you. And the only way we can do that is if something resonates where we can actively talk about this, possibly in public, so that other people who are afraid to ask questions will stop being afraid, and other people who tune out will no longer tune out. This could be the first 20 minutes of sobriety for some people. And with all of that being said, the reason that I took the direction that I took is because I see that things go hand in hand. If I'm walking with somebody who will become unstable if they see any wildlife on this trail, that really takes away the opportunity that I have to record it, first of all, so that I can show people wildlife in its natural habitat. And it's also kind of disrespectful. So if our Father who art in heaven created all of these beings, that I'm seeing on the trail is our Father's artwork. Hallowed be thy name. I'm referencing it to the Creator. Some people get tripped up and talk about worship of nature. What if nature is God's creation and you give God the glory? And by God, I mean, who do you think is God? Who have you formed a personal relationship with where you can claim that these words are offensive? So, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against others. Give us this day our daily bread. Please, I'm humble. I don't normally mean to say, give me my bread. But in this society, according to the passages of time, this is how it was taught. And most of us, it's tough, but it's not as tough as going without food. So when we take this bread, give us this day our daily bread, and when we think about it, that's kind of our approach. So we're not saying anything that should be offensive. We're kind of doing it already. Because if I'm able to go and show some kind of a card and get more than my daily bread, all the trimmings that go with it, that's pretty incredible. And to know that some people will never have that one meal per day, I've got to both give thanks and hope that someone else can learn that prayer, where their nation can pray together and heal the land. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. When we hold sin or wrongdoing of others, corporate or otherwise, against us, again, when we hold wrongdoings against them, we really do it against ourselves, because we have, and I have to think about these things logically, and you have to understand, I'm talking with you knowing that you're going to interact with me. That's why I'm pausing and saying, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. As we forgive those. If we constantly judge those who are being, however it is, we're not forgiving. There's a difference between observations and documentation so that you can, again, deliver us from evil. You know, We don't necessarily want to be hung up on the rungs because something doesn't want us to advance to the next level. So it behooves us to speak calmly and collectedly, no matter what's coming at our way, whether it's a snake on the trail or someone talking about the simplest, kindest prayer that recognizes the airplane in the sky as something that we formerly would have judged. Instead, we think about, wow, where are they going? They're getting back from the holidays. Because there are a lot of travel services right now in this year where people aren't able to travel suddenly, just now, because we've given a lot of authority to a government. More authority than we gave to something that created that. We've essentially considered ourselves equals with what created us. There's no humility. Hallowed be thy name. There's nothing like that. And as we don't forgive some, like let's just say the individuals who don't want to wear masks because they're only a percentage effective anyway, or because of whatever reason. Let's just say that is the case for somebody. Can we have a discussion with them, or did we already tune them out like the snake on the trail, or like the very first moments where this guy started saying, "Our Father who art in heaven"? This video could be the most challenging 26, 27 minutes of sobriety for some people, because the thoughts that go about in anyone's mind is about the same. The only difference is whether we are wound up and ready to attack, or if we're able to learn something new. When we are able to learn something new, we can find the means to communicate despite language barriers. There are no language barriers to the language of love. Love is universal. I've spoken the language of love to a snake that was injured and dying. If you do a search for "injured bull snake seeks compassion" on YouTube, I believe it'll turn up my video. If not, just search the catalog. My primary objective here is to bring you inspiration about wellness and conservation. I've mentioned in the past that my singing was kind of off-putting, and at the same time, it's only because I don't like hearing myself sad. Now that you hear me in my power zone, now that you hear me and care to hear me, I challenge you to go back through the catalog, find a song, and just listen to it, and tell me if it resonates with you. But first, before that, I challenge you to finally click on subscribe right here, and then type something in the comments. What has it so far been that's resonated with you? Is it the cadence? Is it the way that names are said or not said? Words, the way that words are said? Is it the spelling? Because I'm not typing this one up. I'm saying it. There are some in our mix who will listen and hear only a percentage of what's being said. And that's because of the multitasking. Multitasking should never occur when we are attempting to be teacher and student, or friend and friend. We should never multitask from what's being said between us. It's disrespectful. It's not a hallowed thought process to something made of the Creator. If I see a serpent or a roadrunner on my hike today, I will record it the best of my capability and share it with you on this very same channel. Whatever it happens to be, even if it shocked me, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. When I walked past the hornet's nest and was surprised by seeing it for the first time, I still respected what I saw. I didn't jump and shriek and recoil like the very thing that some people are afraid of. I looked with earnest curiosity and acknowledgement at the hornet's nest. The same as I would a serpent. Now, there are some instances where things can surprise me. In some of those surprising moments throughout time, I've uncovered more and more judgment, correction opportunities, translated to learning opportunities. To be able to learn together takes only an open mind and an open dialogue. If the communication is going in one direction, that's fine. There might be nothing but bricks inside. The heart may already be hardened. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. However we knowingly say what we're saying about something else, someone else even, is the way the energy will come back to us. So when we think about these things fully, then again, everything is a learning opportunity. Some people call it prayer or meditation, and some people judge a word and can't understand. We're talking about taking either whatever you believe in to the next level. It's an evolution because you're past your bickering mind. When your mind no longer argues against the truth and instead receives it, then it understands. There's nothing bad that I'm trying to provide in terms of insight. It's all relevant. Wildlife and nature is the same as the plane flying overhead. And if we give no reverence to it, then we can't forgive our own selves. We cannot be forgiven. So forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, and deliver us from evil. Did you see that? Gone. Lead us not into temptation, and deliver us from evil. There were things that were only understandable from my point of view. However, when that vehicle left, there was something about the sound that caused me a slight agitation. So as I thought about them is how I thought about in terms of my energy. So I found a learning opportunity for me to not get concerned when other more common sounds enter the scope of the videos that I'm making here. So I'm learning as I go. It's why I'm taking a walk in nature, to think about the things that I'm being presented with. But right now, the main thing that I'm trying to and not even trying, that I'm succeeding at having overcome already in my own experience, is the communication barrier that had been occurring in the past, where people pretended that they were hearing over and over and over until it became apparently and exceedingly and overwhelmingly clear that someone was not listening, to the point of causing situations that never needed to be there to begin with. Not being mindful of one another's time. Not respecting another enough to where you wonder, if that was the waiter, how would they treat them? And if they would treat the waiter that way, how would they treat you if you just were irrelevant to that group? So you can't be stuck on a rung trying to climb while someone's hanging on, and you're just continuing to, maybe you don't need those pants where you're going. It's warming up. Maybe you needed shorts anyway. Cut the weight. Bypass the mass. You don't need to pretend that you don't have a direct relationship with the Creator to understand that the words from each relevant text of peace will tell you the same thing. A non-offensive, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, and lead us not into temptation, and deliver us from evil. Amen. Not a single thought in there was hostile towards anybody. It brought my mind a level of calm where I saw the butterfly fly over the back glass window. Did you? When I go out into nature, my mind is at ease. When I'm in public, my mind is at ease. There are certain things that can drive my energy up in a way where it's just, it can be challenging to hear certain things that have gone unresolved for so long because of the inaction of our fathers, where faith is applied, sure, but again, inaction. Faith without action is like going into the desert with not enough water with your whole family and thinking there's going to be water for everybody. If you meaningfully commit yourself to a place where there's no water, you might want to take action. Especially when you're safeguarding somebody else. So, faith without action is a definite way to remain lukewarm. And all of these things that I'm discussing seem to apply to whether or not someone can hear about wellness and conservation in a way that can be shared, because some of the thoughts cause concern. Why would someone not be concerned if they were hearing that things were going awry? The reason they would be able to not become concerned is because they know, hey, there's a plan. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Sometimes, to bring things back into abundance, we have to reset some things. If we're a tech-driven, global, consumer-based society, and we can apply all of that leverage, all of that knowledge, and all of that existing tech to so many different ways of automation that would allow us not only business as usual, but also an abundance of a full blooming garden in our own proximity, where the insects and humans like one another again, where someone can click on subscribe and go, hey, I know what that cat's talking about. That person makes some sense. When we can say truth is truth and smile about it. That's why. The logic applies because it was truthful. In some cases are being overturned due to previous error, where some people have been imprisoned for years, decades even, and they're winning different volumes of money for all the time they've spent imprisoned. Imagine being imprisoned from prior to the tech age to being released after the tech age, where we see things haven't changed that much in terms of what's happening. The body cam footage shows it faster, but things haven't changed that much despite all of that knowledge and power. Despite all of the people who are making it home from the holidays, what jobs are they serving that's not putting these things at the forefront? What is it that all of us are serving that's not putting this number one discussion at the forefront and in the middle of and underscoring every conversation that we've ever had about all of these subjects, which really boil down to, are we bigoted or not? How do we perceive information from some other entity that we did not think of as our own clan? Or are we part of the same clan, cut from the same cloth? Some people may take what I'm saying one way, and many people see exactly what I'm saying because they feel the same way. You who feel the same way, why are you not participating in the conversation? What can I possibly do to engage this conversation in a way where maybe it is talked about by our fathers finally, instead of our fathers using a delegation of work to get someone else to tell you, we can't understand your application for communication, so we're going to overturn this hearing, and we're not even going to respond to your future hearings at all, even if you send us money. There was a former leader who I sent a substantial amount of cash to, and some of the local products from this era. And apparently it takes a lot more than actual money and good intention to get in touch with the ultimate communications specialists, otherwise known as our fathers. I've taken many measures that seem simple and complex because nobody's done these things before, or not many have. And I'm only asking please listen if you're going to actually click on something. Listen to what's being advertised in your general direction. Listen to what's in your heart. Listen to one another. Listen respectfully when our parents are talking. And do not be afraid to respond with truth. The truth will set you free. Someone's hammering the clapter out. The truth will set you free. In some instances, it may seem like as if it's a punishment. Remember, not long ago, I mentioned over and over and over, my father's information is being withheld from me for over a month. All of these things I documented and shared. And you can backtrack and understand how uncomfortable it was to share this information. Because it wasn't my family flying home for the holidays to see one another. But I was happy for all of those families. While my own family withheld the contact information from my direct relative while they took his property. I've said all of those things as observations, not as judgments. Of course, we can feel certain things because we know what the truth is. And even those who have committed these acts understand how that might feel, but they understand it from a different perspective, from looking at the mirror, so to speak. And when confronted with the mirror, with thoughts that are this deep, that have to question ourselves, sometimes people will flee. But that's okay. You do not want someone dishonest in your mix. It slows down the process. It slows down anything, any health that you could possibly build. And sometimes it reverses it. And sometimes we absorb other ills in an effort to bring people back to the light. And it takes a toll. It can take a toll. But in the same way, ill health, dis-ease can be reversed. And when we participate in subscribing to those channels that help reinforce our strength, our health, our wealth, well, we can't help but succeed. Because now we're taking actions. We're not just applying this basic faith. We're looking for other morsels of knowledge, of words, of insight that we can nourish our souls with. There are plenty of videos on soul ties and curses and breaking the curses. A lot of them come with advertisements. And in all cases, there's a damaged soul. And the damaged soul, to recover that, sometimes takes thinking about peace, meditating on the thought about what is peace. Well, one spiritual leader said, the way our Father teaches us to pray is as follows. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, and deliver us from evil. Amen. Whether you say amen or not, the basic way of prayer was taught to recite some lines that are not introducing angst. There are some spiritual ministers who introduce angst by amping us up. Be gone, bound, fire. And there is a place for this type of knowledge. In all of our different learnings throughout time, one thing to really consider is, what are we selling at the same time? And where are we giving away this valuable, wealth-inspiring, wealth-building information? And why? For me, the choice is simple. Those who cannot hear already cannot hear. No matter whether they are in earshot or not. And I mean this on so many levels, including what I'm about to do here, go for a walk on this trail. On this trail, there will be plenty of people who do not even return the acknowledgement of someone saying hello to them on the trail. As children of some higher form of creation, we either acknowledge the animal on the trail, or the person on the trail, or the nature on the trail, or we don't. When we choose to not acknowledge and to judge, sometimes we overlook simple instruction. For an example, at this local park, it's clear there are no pets allowed. And every day, people will take pets on these trails. It's a local wilderness area developed in a specific way so that wildlife can thrive and succeed in a natural habitat. However, people will bring pets, which will go to the bathroom in these parks, and they won't even pick up after pets. But once again, I'm saying there are no pets allowed at this park. There are big signs. But once someone chooses to not acknowledge what is true, then we start to run into situations where the law, what does it matter anymore? What does it matter if someone is shot to death? Which side of the law do we fall on? So then you start breaking it down to what's right or wrong. And some people just choose to not do right. And that's why some people who are entrusted to a house would burn their house down, even knowing that their children would have no inheritance. So the basic words of the basic Lord's Prayer are not in any way to incite violence. They're all about peace. And peace is getting the mind into a space where it can hear the truth. And when it hears the truth, it learns to do better. In other realms, some people choose to avoid hearing the truth. And that is the type of entity that hangs off of the pant legs of every income producer just to get the next bread. Because now it's not just bread people want regularly. It's nonstop celebrations to the point where it doesn't matter if we hide someone's family member from their own direct relative for over a month while we rob that relative. It could be not paying attention to basically the fact that there are no pets allowed at a place, or it could be simply not paying attention to your own internal logic that says something doesn't feel right when I do these wrong things. That's what meditation is. That's what prayer is. It's just simple thought processes to calm the mind enough to talk about what's relevant in that moment. What makes sense at the 55 mark. What makes sense for every hour of sobriety. That's what responsibility is. So, today I'd like to talk on this topic for hopefully the final time, so that we recognize responsibility is doing the right thing. And it's irresponsible when we don't hear that there's a right and a wrong to begin with, because we don't want to. That's being a toddler. Being a toddler is possible in today's era, no matter what age we are. Because as I've said from experience, just 1 year ago, possibly 2 years ago now, depending on when I release this video, I was being struck by an adult toddler who there was no recourse for. There was no sentence. There was no spelling associated with it. This person just went ahead and continued on that path and burned their house down. So it's kind of challenging to recognize that these things continue to happen, and that some people would support it by simply not participating, and even going so far as hearing over and over what someone's saying and then going, "You use too many words. I can't understand what you're asking." I'm asking that if you were holding my relative captive and you misled them, you misled them to the point where they no longer understood who was telling the truth, the only way that I can talk with you in front of the person that you took from me is with a mediator or with a higher power in that respect. So, where there are two or more gathered in the name of peace, peace succeeds. One person is pretty powerful. When you bring a whole other person into this, we can move mountains. There is absolutely no doubt that many of my successes have come from you clicking on subscribe and helping me to understand I'm moving in the right direction. So today I listened to some of my original songs and I thought, man, these are really good. Lyrically, these are amazing. All I had to do was become myself, my step into my power and sing my song. Before I was just kind of crying my song, crying like a scuffed knee toddler running around, a tall toddler. And now I'm singing my song, baby. And whether you hear it or not doesn't matter to me. It really doesn't. I would love it if you hear it. The only thing that matters to me is if somehow, if we ever cross paths, share the trail, I help you to smile again, because someone on my trails helped me smile. So that's basically belief, faith plus action, moving in that direction of the things that bring a smile to you. So until next time, everybody, thank you so much for listening. No matter what time you hear this, Happy New Year. Peace, love, and all that old school stuff.